Hi there, Randy Green again, video 3. So we kind of have the foundation, and here, before we go into video 3, I would like you to do two things. One, go back to the reconfiguration sciences, where you got the knowledge of the different rings that the 3 lower fields are composed of. And second, the text material for this course, this module, is foundationally things you can do inside the base program to keep up what we could say an energetic oriented environment. And that means that these different suggestions and practices will assist you in keeping a daily routine, not as a ritual, because rituals are always fear-provoking, as if, I didn't do the ritual, so something will go wrong, right? So that's the problem with rituals. They become rigid, and then we are not flexible anymore. If you recall from the Transition Science courses on nutrition, as well as on the advanced work with the Rotundum, we were already discussing the different environmental energies and how we can amplify that within our home. And that's the first important thing when we're beginning to do this work, is the understanding of there is the world outside our door, and then there is a different type of reality inside in our home, or where we have decided to settle, be it in an RV in the forest, or a little hut, or a home that we are aware of, not a home we are aware of, that's a weird saying, but kind of if you're living in an environment where there are other people living around you, in a house or in a condo or whatever it is. I will put in though that the higher up in energy you want to push your energy work, the more the circumstances play a crucial role. And that means that if, as I have experienced as well, naturally, the more you lift in energy through the different layers in the cleansing process, the opposition forces in the fourth dimension will be there until you have cleared all the layers from the artificial fourth that you are embedded into, or have connection points to, or are seated into, or whatever we can use of terminology. And that is a process that once you begin that cleansing process, it runs in cycles, it runs in a specific type of pattern each month, until you have cleared all of the connection points you have there, and there are no longer what we say genetic residuals from the old world order colonial programs. Of course, if you are under the parallel universal matrix races and some of their hybrid programs, it is a little bit more difficult, because in a way they're not done here yet. So that means that those of you who have genetics, or have been part, or are part of, or are born into the hybrid projects, your connection to their artificial realities is still ongoing. So the work we're doing now are for people who are no longer part of the colonial programs. And the hybrids and the hybrid projects that goes with the parallel universal matrix races are not interested in the true human genetics. They are continuing their production and reproduction on humanoid genetics, and that's important. They can't use the true human genetics in their world, because they are humanoids of origin. And that means they have their own universal lineages, they have their own schemes, they have their own matrices, they have everything that is in alignment with that type of humanoids that they are, including technology and energy systems and everything that goes with what it means to be part of the parallel universal matrix. And it is artificial in its construction. But they have used the regenesis programs to continue their own existence. So with that played out, and then you might have a lot of questions, what about this and that? And then I'll just have to say, I don't know, because I'm not part of the parallel, the POM races. I'm not a hybrid project. So what I know is what I know in the work I've done with others. And that is limited, because I have kept my path clean as much as I could for these groups. They have definitely tried to create bridges. They have also used people, sending them my way. But most of the time, I just used their interference patterns to clear out what I had of insectoid genetics, because that's their main access point, the insectoid genetics. That kind of ties into the next level work we're doing with the biofield, but I'm just putting that in here so you have an understanding that there are certain things we can do and there are certain things that are just not possible to do due to our genetic composition and the higher order holographic energetic architecture that we hold. Meaning that if we are from lineages that do not belong to the solar system, it is not possible to go on the true human path. The true human path is designed, has energetic and genetic affinity with the true human consciousness. So that means that whomever is treading onto that do not have that, will perhaps get to the gate, to put it that way, but will not continue on the path. The path will naturally reject that energy system. With that said, then we go to the reconfiguration sciences, where we have the 3 lower fields that are identical for all of us, whether you're a hybrid or you're a humanoid or you are an original true human in your original composition before the timeline event or before you got into the colonization programs or the colonial programs, where your energy system was foundationally altered by the insertions of the genetic fragments, as I talk about in the advanced clearing work courses 1 to 4, including in the book Torology. These must be activated so we can release ourselves from the artificial 4th dimension. Then the next challenge point, that's the minefield, comes with the old Atlantean timelines. As we can say, the artificial 4th is what hinders our our psychosomatic, let's put it that way, the emotional and biofield intertwined. These are the ones that have been imbued with via the Hara quadrant, as well as to the degree some of the chest quadrant have been imbued with the genetic fragments of the different regress races that participated in the colonial programs. So the artificial 4th must be cleansed out. The Hara quadrant must shut down. And then there is the chest quadrant and the head quadrant that must be cleared. The chest quadrant has a tendency to hold a high amount of either dark or inverted type of genetics, reptilian or reptoid type of genetics, as well as to some degree falling angelic. And that's because it's connected to the heart and the throat and the ability to work with the shift from the vibration field and into the radiation field, where the challenges of those who have activated the heart field goes into connecting it to the mind field, the core of the mind field, and the buffer or the guardian of the threshold is technically the throat chakra, where if we go with the chakra as it is, we know it's kind of speaking our voice, standing in our own truth, and being able to be authentic and honest and straightforward in what comes out of our mouth, what we are thinking, and how we address our emotions and how we are around other people. That's the most difficult chakra in a way to cleanse. Of course, we are the solar plexus and the Hara chakra are also notoriously difficult because they are tied to all levels of desires and selfish purposes and the ego structure. But the throat is kind of the chakra that creates most distortion when we talk about the mind field. So that's the first bridge that must be cleansed. And that's why whatever teaching system of the ones that came from Atlantis is always about being silent and only speak when necessary, speaking the truth, and no idle chatter, as well as no lies, no deception, no nothing that can connect to the artificial 5th dimensional cube systems. And if we do so, if we're not honest to our own personal truth, are not in alignment with our core energy, as well as having transformed the ego structure to be authentic in who and what we are, well, then what we will speak will not be the truth. It will not be a representation of who and what we are. It's not the same as we always should just blab out whatever's in our mind or whatever comes across, because sometimes the mind field creates things that are better not spoken. That's part of the deception technology, that's part of the manipulation technology and all the things that's going on in the mind field, but only speak the truth and stand strong in our truth. Not that we are to become rigid or fanatics or anything like that, because that's the distortion too. That's an imbalanced way of standing in your own truth. So standing in your own truth means to be connected to your heart field, speak with kindness and concern, but also set boundaries, which is part of the course material as well, energetic boundaries. And sometimes that also expresses itself in a strong energy that we can also call anger. Naturally, as the ego structure and some of the childhood patterns and past life patterns and repressed energies and whatever we have accumulated throughout lifetime, the need for anger becomes less, and we learn more and more to avoid situations where setting boundaries are necessary. But of course, in our personal relationships, there are still the process of getting to know each other and figuring out what are your boundaries, what are mine, what is yours, what is mine, and all of these transfer mechanisms, especially for females that are mothers as well, myself included, are working points that needs to be strengthened more and more to learn with the people that I care about. How do I express my boundaries? What is it that is necessary, especially in a time where people forget easily and getting wiped, and the other challenges that we are having as a human civilization. So going back to the environment, which is super important. So we are here addressing the fact that, as I've said years ago as well, if whatever our personal relationships are, to whatever extent that we are upholding them, whether we are in a partnership with a significant other or not, the significant other must do some kind of energy work, must have some kind of energetic understanding, must be interested in some type of path that leads to higher awareness. Once we begin to really work with the higher order sciences, it is just not possible to be in relationships where the significant other is base program through and through. There must be a willingness and an eagerness to be on a path of progression or a path of enlightenment or an awakening path that stretches beyond the different challenges within the base program. There must be an energetic responsibility and an energetic understanding. So that's the minimum requirement. We are all on different levels of our own path, and they can work simultaneously. The important thing is that the person that we have around us on a daily basis, or the people we have around us on a daily basis, are interested in progression work to some extent, whatever that means for them. And that doesn't mean that we can't be with humanoids, or we can't be with avians or something else, or a hybrid if our partners are hybrid. But the point is that the partner that we choose as our what we could call co-traveler in this journey has the understanding of being a co-traveler, so you can be authentic. One thing is that when we go out the door and meet other people that are not doing the work there, we can be kind and we can be considerate and we can speak the truth that is in alignment with the situation we are in. That's the mastery of principle 2. And whatever comes our way, we balance it and we deal with it in a manner that is suitable. As we go through the artificial fourth dimension and have dealt with the opposition forces, well, there will be fewer and fewer people around you. They naturally falls away because we kind of fall out of the dynamics of the base program. Hence, there will be fewer people around us. We will feel the need to move more and more into secluded areas, not necessarily ending up in a cave somewhere, because that's not conducive whatsoever. That leads to delusion and semi-madness, to put it that way. So we are social structures including, which we were in the original pillar projects, we were social beings as working with teams and the understanding of the highest good of the many, that we were part of a reality field where other similar consciousness structures were there as part of the journey that we were doing together. So being in your own energy all the time can be conducive from time to time, but not your entire life. Let us put it this way. Sometimes retracting and grounding yourself. And here I'm not talking about making roots into the ground and connect to the earth, but I'm talking about grounding yourself in who and what you are in your own truth. That's the most important grounding, that you are in alignment with your core truths of who and what you are. A person that are working to progress, to become best human version you can be inside the base program, that are observing in mindfulness and contemplation your reactions, your bodily reactions, your mind reactions, your emotional reactions, and constantly work to align them into a kind of harmony and balance so that no distortion is generated. And that's where the text material comes in. That assists you in creating as little distortion as possible. So living as an energetic being demands a very high level of skillfulness and mindfulness and observance of everything that's going on in every second and every now, which can be challenging. But that's part of what it means to be multidimensional. Of course, we can slip from time to time, and then we will have to correct afterwards. But with that said, when we tread into this next level of the path, because all of these things are talked about in the previous material, and it is part of the whole journey itself, where whatever teaching system you're looking into, the observance and responsibility for your energetic environment is technically the foundation of any type of progression lifestyle that you would choose to have, where you are focusing on how do I lift my energies into some higher levels of awareness? And there are many different paths here, as we know from the different groups that left Atlantis and other of the hybrid, which was the old type of humanoid civilizations that have existed inside the enclosure. Again, I'm referring to that podcast series that I have on the Hope Institute YouTube channel of the new level of, or the next level of activation. Okay, so we have that basic understanding. What we also have the basic understanding is that we have worked our way through the timelines that were connected to the Regenesis programs, and that's the colonial programs, the original Regenesis programs that were taken over and hijacked by the different regress races, and we have worked our way out of their programs. We can still be pulled back from time to time, all depending on what we come in contact with, but stepping into the true human path is where we literally, again, as we did in the beginning of a journey out of the base program, leave behind another level of reality. And let me explain that a little bit. When we left the base program, through meditation, contemplation, self-healing work, as well as introspective work, psychological work, and whatever we needed to deal with in our daily routine of becoming authentic. Because technically, when we live inside the base program, most people are severely unauthentic. And what comes out of their mouth is not always how they feel or how they would like to be represented. Sometimes the roles demand something else of us, situations pushes people into do things that they afterwards are not proud of, etc. So there are still challenges which we will also discover as we move further into the other levels of the paths, where the base program still can pop up from time to time and give us a kind of a challenge or a test, as in, okay, are you returning here where there is this kind of gap, or are you continuing on that path? Because you are welcome to step back into the base program. We'll be more than happy to have you. We need you. And in that, sometimes we succumb to that, and other times we're just saying, thank you for the offer. And I can see I could contribute. I can see I could do good here. I see I can definitely, to some degree, take another round inside the base program. But at some point, the stretch between the common or the ordinary world And the world that we are occupying, those of us who are doing the inner work to the extent where we become multidimensional, simply becomes too big. The gap becomes too big. And that forces us to begin to create new types of base programs. And that's the level that we are getting into here when we are talking about getting into the true human path. But going back to the goodbye to the base program that we experienced when we were on the path of more authenticity, if you call it that, to becoming more authentic, where the shedding off of the falsehood, shedding off the false persona, shedding off all of the things that we've been indoctrinated with, the institutional programs, the societal programs, all of the expectations of what it means to be human, etc., inside the reality we're currently part of, and learning to deal with that in a manner so we did not create more distortion, that we would most of the time, as far as it was possible, meet the situations with kindness. Again, once the artificial fourth kicked in, of course, at the same time, being human in kindness, but also with the artificial fourth, have our boundaries in check, or whatever was needed due to the rules of engagement with whatever came our way. And my journey through the artificial fourth has been super, super complicated. And in that manner, as I always say to my students, I'm probably not the best person to tell you what to experience there, because the amount of things I have experienced is probably 10 times, if not 1,000 times more intense than what most normal people will experience due to my background and where I come from and why I'm here to begin with. So the circumstances are different again between different forms of humans. We can't compare, similar like we can't compare with, I've used that 1,000 times. Just take two siblings within the same family. They will have, they are born with a specific type of karma. They are born with a specific type of genetic makeup. Hence, they're experiencing the family dynamics differently. One comes out pretty okay. The other one comes out very damaged because of the sensitivity scale, because of the different approaches to reality and due to karma, etc., etc. So nothing can be compared. But we can say there are general dynamics of this is how we do it or this is not how we do it. There are general ideas as the transition sciences of this is what the program was, this is how you complete the Regenesis program, and this is how you get out of the extraterrestrial colonial programs and understand who and what you are. And again, if you're a humanoid, your journey might take some path, a different path than what I have shared. And again, those who do have the humanoid genome will take some of my courses that is suitable for their journey and then leave the rest. Whereas a true human that has a knowledge or a faint memory of being part of the Regenesis programs will know this is the teachings I need to complete so I can complete the program. There will be an inner knowledge of that will guide throughout the process and keep people to the fire, so to speak, to do the course material and complete it and work with it and feel this is the right material for me. Of course, we are in alignment, again, the laws of energetic and genetic affinity. Okay, but there's also the understanding of some of the original, when we go into the fifth dimension, the humanoid projects of Atlantis. Some might be drawn through my teaching material as they go through the fourth dimension. But once they reach the fifth, they divert into their humanoid strand where they continue their journey with another teaching system. That happens too, and that's completely okay. Because this is not about which teaching system is the correct one. It's about which teaching system is in alignment with the journey that we're on. And that's the most important thing that we must remember. But also, of course, being critical, that's part of the throat chakra, being critical and learn to discern what is being said here, not just swallow it all raw, as we say it in Danish, but actually understand this needs to be, this I can work with, this gives this effect in me, what does it do to me, how do I respond to this, and what does that stir up in me when I'm working with this material? What kind of energy is being amplified? What does that put in motion? What are the results of this energy? How does my mind feel look after this? Working with this type of teaching system, how does my emotional field look, etc.? What comes up? And this is where you can say, well, If the incentive is that I'm on this path or I am on the progression sciences and follow that because I want to be pristine and pure and stand like a golden orb, well, then to get to that point demands a lot of clearing work. And in that process of achieving that goal, everything that needs to be cleared out will pop up. And then the untrained one will say, well, I'm on this path, there comes so and so much darkness or so and so much that pops up, so I can't be on this path. So it's a difficult discernment process, and that's part of the throat chakra as well. As in, is what comes my way now, is it because the teachings are actually not mine to be part of, or does it come my way because I'm now doing a cleansing process? Again, a difficult discernment to be made, especially because it goes on in visions and inside our head and not out in front of us, externalized in a manner that teaches us, as a confrontation with a person where we, again, if someone comes and mirrors specific dynamics to us, we also have to ask, is it mine? Is it that person's? Is it a mirroring, or is it a transfer? So all of these levels of working with energy and what is there is always very, very complicated. But one thing that shows us that we're done with a specific level of reality when we are clearing, for instance, the 9 rings in the emotional field, is that the mirror effect in other people will become less and less and less. Then it will change into the artificial 4th, where we will still meet certain people, but they will then hold insectoid genetics or avian genetics, and we will have 4th dimensional encounters. We will see energetic parasites. There will be energetic jumpers. We'll begin to have impacts of the people we have been around that are associated with the artificial 4th. So the energy work is easy peasy compared to later on when we are going through the astral and the subconscious layers, compared to when we get into the artificial 4th, where suddenly it's no longer just energy, it is also technology, it is also actual organic life forms that are associated with these type of genetics. And then later on, as we get higher and higher up and getting closer and closer to the 5th, these organic life forms disperse. Then we're just left with programs, harnessing programs, artificial storyboards, etc., that runs automatically connected to the technology in the 5th. Because the 5th in the artificial are more or less dark ones and technology. Not much life forms going on there, because the 5th dimension collapsed completely after the fall of Atlantis. That was the second attempt to get the 5th cycle up and running inside our system. As you know from other places, the 5th planet exploded due to the wrongful use of technology. So that was the natural 5th cycle reality field. We're now calling a planet, but that's the asteroid belt. Whatever that was after the timeline event did not carry the 5th dimensional energies well, and it ended up in a catastrophe. And then there was the reseeding and the attempt again with the 5th cycle, along with the humanoids on our planet, which we now know as Earth, but in the reality field at the time, that had a version of our planet where Atlantis, as we know of the human humanoid program within the 5th cycle, were attempted once more, which again fell because the 5th cycle technology were the one that got hit the hardest by the timeline event, and thus the genetics of the 5th dimensional systems in our quadrant are notoriously inverted and have the dark energy to it, which is what I talk about in some of the fallen templates that I address in the transition sciences. And this is important to understand, that the mind field has rings in the 5th layer of the mind field that is notoriously linked to timelines that did not succeed whatsoever. The 4th ring is linked to the notoriously artificial 4th and all of the different hybrid projects, as well as the regressed genetics and the regressed races and their programs here, the colonial programs. And then you have ring 1, 2, and 3 in the mind field that is associated with normal processes of the brain. With that understanding, we can now go in and say, okay, we have worked our way through the 9 layers of the emotional field. That's the advanced work with the emotional field in the transition sciences and the template sciences, and as well as the book Torology and the advanced clearing work teaches us how we are dealing with some of the different technologies that are controlling our mind field, our chest quadrant, our heart field that's controlled by the hara quadrant, pushing us downwards into what we call the solar plexus and desire energies, where our entire life is about me, myself, and I, where once we have lifted the energies going into the heart field, we become more observant of the fluctuations of I, the different states of I, what is necessary, what is not necessary, where's the right approach to perform a sense of self and where's not the approach form of sense of self, when the sense of self is technically only needed when we are in the base program, when we go up in energy and work in contemplation work. There should be no ego. There should just be an observer. There should just be what is perceived and what is worked with, and an interface system that understands what to work with and what not to work with, and that's the discernment. So we could say the sound that comes from the throat is the higher level of the higher order senses in terms of what is imbued with sound. And that, of course, is the bridge into the higher order senses of hearing and seeing, as well as the what we could say the subtle layers of the sound that has no sound. That's where the throat shifts, so to speak, from being an outer-oriented chakra to become an inward-looking type of chakra with no sound, but it begins to whirl around and spin around, become this golden orb like we're having with the rest of the chakras. And once that happens, then the higher order hearing as well as the higher order sight will really begin to unfold its content, which of course again goes with why most of the ancient teaching systems say tell no lie, do not deceive, be truthful in your use of sound, because that's a vibration that affects your heart field. And if your heart field is not pure and clean and in the state of being authentically and innocent, and at the same time having kindness but understanding the boundaries, then whatever comes out of your mouth will have a negative tone to it that too easily associate itself with the distorted energies of the fifth cycle. So the deception and the untrue voice, the deceptive and untrue voice is connected to the negative version, and that is the fallen version of the fifth mind field. So the kindness of the heart and the purity of the voice and the purity of mind are crucial in the cleansing processes of the mind field or the mental field into becoming what we understand as the mind field. And then we begin to see the other layers of what that type of work means. So here we begin to have a very complex understanding of the journey, where as we leave the base program, this journey tells us that we must change our ways in fundamental ways and in depth to be truly able to work with the energetic settings that allows us to continue our path of progression into becoming a full capacitated, higher order, multidimensional person that is still in a physical form and yet is capable and able of working with the other levels of reality. And that's where the outer, the externalized reality no longer has interest. It will naturally fall away, except from what you need when you move from one place to another. If you're visiting someone or you're going somewhere or you are putting yourself into new challenges, whatever that means, then the base program will pop back up and you will revert to the challenges. If you go to a new place, then you will revert to naturally how you used to arrange yourself in new circumstances. And again, you will be forced to trot the challenges one more time, but this time a little bit more skillfully, a little bit more efficiently, until you have got that level of the base program in kind of a situation or an energetic environmental circumstance that allows you to do your inner work again. And that's part of life. That's how it is. Life life is Sisyphus work. We repeat again, again, again. Every time we get into a new situation, we'll have to start all over again or repeat what we already learned. But that's part of building the complexity of the higher order energy system so that it is able to navigate in all the different challenges that the base program still offers to us, especially if we put ourselves into new base program circumstances. Now, does this mean that you are to put yourself into a base program situation? I'm here going to tell you a little bit of an interesting thing. You know, I moved to an island, and that means I've got even fewer people around me. There are only 300 people on this island, which is absolutely a humongous relief compared to where I lived before. First, I was in a condo that became impossible for me to be there because I had people all around me, above and below and on each side. And whatever they held as I lifted up my energies and became magnetic, whatever they held came my way. And that meant that I was doing energy work for too many people in one go, not just my own, but a lot of other stuff that was not mine to deal with. And that embedded a lot of codes in me that's taken time to get rid of. Okay, so I moved to another place. There were fewer people there, but there were still things going on. The environment I was in, the jurisdiction I was in was not conducive for the work I was supposed to do. But there was another learning process that had to be done there. Again, a step into where I am now, so far removed from everything, which again is a slow process since I have a child and the family and all these things, where you learn to become authentic in a manner that they can accept, so there will be no hostility. So that's also important, that we take time with patience to the people that are around us that matters to us, and what we can and cannot do, and what we should let go of, and what we can uphold, etc. So with that said, also the difficulties there, and then Josh came into my life, and then another challenge came, and another layer of old patterns popped up, and another type of work needed to be done. But then going to America and visiting his family, and new situations and new things popped up and new challenges. The releasing of the dead, which I hadn't done for years, were a prominent feature in America for whatever reason. The going into some of the original Native American energies that I am tied to in different ways, and onward and so forth. So whatever situation we put ourselves in, we get new challenges where we are kind of pushed back a little bit into some of our older patterns, or the unresolved patterns, or what we need to work with. It goes without saying that the more we have cleared off whatever is in our emotional and mental fields connected to the past of this earth, as well as the civilization and the original reality field, the fewer new circumstances we will be presented with. And this puts me here because I'm stepping into the true human path. It has recognized me. I feel it in my system all the time. So it's important to understand, I feel it in my heart field. It feels like a calling. It feels like a place of, now I'm home. Now I'm back on my original program. I'm no longer part of the humanoid program. I am not home there. So that gives an interesting feeling of this little house I'm in now begins to feel like home, because I am on the correct path now. So that gives a calm, but it also stirs up other stuff, which I will get to. While I'm there on the threshold, I'm being challenged. And that's interesting, not in a stark way, but there's this little test going on. And that is, we have a little daily where we buy our groceries, and they are in dire need of people to be there, to help them. And there is this voluntarily where you can support and help voluntarily, or you can actually get a job there. And I was just contemplating for 2 split seconds, should I take the job? As in kind of, I could do just 10 hours or 15 hours or whatever. And then just going through the steps of what I actually kind of did it when I was talking to the leader. She said, well, then you'll meet a lot of people. And I just thought, nah. I'm not interested in meeting a lot of people. That would be stepping back into the base program. But it just had to do its last little thing. Still, I wanted to do kindness. I'm learning to not give too much. I'm learning another level of the principle 2 in a new way, as in, I would love to help. My heart reaches out for this, not helping because it makes me feel good, but because there's a need for my assistance. And that's the test. should I, even though there is a need for my assistance, should I then revert and go back into the base program because there is a need for my assistance? And this is where another boundary that I'm observant of, which has come in play as I step into the true human path, because all of the humanoids still need our help to do their regenesis programs and complete their regenesis programs. But I also know that the base program is changing. I'm feeling the change of it. It becomes something I really don't want to be part of. So now is not the time to step back. And then, although it's with a heavy heart, and I know that I could help and I could be a volunteer and I could do a lot of stuff, now is not the time to take the bait. Now is the time to say, another door must be closed, similar like I did when I left the base program. That was also a period with sadness and knowing that once I stepped into the next level of my journey, things would fall away that I normally had seen as part of my everyday life, that while I was in it appeared to be important. But once I stepped out of it and shut the door and walked the new path of where I was supposed to go into the humanoid or the pillar projects and doing my own cleansing work in the artificial fourth and onward and so forth, it became clear to me that I had artificially been having these connection points to the base program and the programs of what it means to be human that were not actually mine. I was not authentic when I participated in it. And going down and become a person that works in the daily and fill up the store and do all these things, although they would be more than happy to have me because I'm a really good worker. And when I was young, I was standing in these little shops here and there. So I would just step right in and know exactly what to do. That you don't even have to train me or anything, because I used, as I said, when I was from my age of 15 until the age of 21, I was in different stores working as a worker in these shops. Again, excuse me if I'm not using the right language here, but you can say being a Walmart worker, for those of you in America, you will get what I'm talking about, or being a Woolly worker for those of you who are in Australia. Woolies, that's what you call it, right? These where you go and shop all your daily groceries and whatnot. So anyway, so I wouldn't know exactly how to fill in the necessary skills, because I already done it. I did it most of my youth, so there would be no issue. I would be a really good worker. But would it be my need, or is it again the base program calls for me to do something where I compromise? I don't really need it. It's good to know, it's good to have, but it just feels like this calling, this open calling, as in we need you. But is that my responsibility to take, or should there be other solutions? Are there better solutions that could come in play? For instance, that perhaps there should be no manned shop down there. Perhaps should all be done by those of us who are here. Perhaps once a week, a group of people will come over and fill up the store, and then the rest of the time it would just be opening hours where we go down, fill up our own basket, and then pay via an app or a credit card or whatever. Not a manned shop, but actually one that just runs from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening, because everybody here in the islands are honest people. So perhaps it's then the model they're trying to continue is outdated. And I'm using this as an example when we talk about how we normally step in the colonial programs as healers and helpers and coaches and psychotherapists, which you know I am too, and all of these things where we eagerly try to help the humanoids that have not completed their regression project, so to speak, their regenesis project to undo the regression of their genetics. And they're just in the base program, unaware, in oblivion, and not taking the responsibility of doing things differently. They repeat the patterns they have done so far, and that's why it's not working. That's why they are in lack. That's why things are not running around, and getting more people in is not the solution, which they have done with the hybrid projects, etc. It is time to think completely new and find new solutions. It's part of the technological era. There are so many possibilities now, and we don't need all of these different items. Things could be minimized into what is most important. Again, this is the whole surplus, greed, manifestation. Everything needs to be abundantly represented. It's not needed. So there's a whole new line of thinking that if I step in and help, will prevent that process to keep going. I will just fill in a gap, and then it will just continue running in its unproductive ways, and I will be worn down. And that's part of my life the last 10 years as I worked my way through the artificial fourth and through whatever was left of the original artificial five, the original artificial fifth of the Atlantean programs, and then again shutting the door. No, I'm not participating in that. No, I'm not participating in that. No, I'm not. Because we need new, we have a saying, it's kind of meatballs on the soup. Not that I eat meat, you know that. But it's a saying, there needs to be a new recipe here on how we do business, how we work with little island communities, etc. And just stepping in and helping is not solving it. We need new thinking. And I'm beginning to do that with the Randy Green or the Hope Institute. There, all of these new processes of thinking. So instead of me stepping in and helping in the programs that are now falling apart, the process for us that are stepping onto the true human path is to say, okay, we need to think in new ways. We need to create a new type of what it means to be human. And there we can put in our skills and our abilities to truly work with how do we transform this reality so it potentially could be a future where this reality field actually could be reset and recalibrated and perhaps do a transition into what we could call a higher order type of civilization. The hybrids, which I've been in contact with from time to time, been trying very, very hard to make me try and manifest their form of artificial fourth. And I have said a clear no every time, because we don't want to live in a world that's run by greys and androids and machines and weird insectoid critters and human forms with insects in them. And many of the hybrids we have around us now, that's part of the newer generations from 2000 and onward, we can see that they fit in to some degree, but they are very dissimilar from those of us who are part of the colonial programs. And we are sometimes scratching our heads and saying, okay, what's going on here? Not really understanding what's going on there with the whole weird responses to the physical form as well as what it means to be part of a society. So the societal structures are breaking down either way, and that means we all need to put our hat on and do things in a new way. So with that understood, base program one more time, challenging me or testing me on my need to help and assist, and this time saying, no, it's not my job. It's not my task to go in. It's not my task to go back or down in energy into something that fundamentally is dysfunctional and not working and need a do-over or a makeover, more accurately, to work in a way that is more conducive for the situation that this island is in, including the houses here that are falling apart, that can't get sold. The houses that are here, they have been inhabited by people of the older generation. They are now going to retirement homes, or they are shedding off their body and are no longer present on the island, so to speak, in human form. So that leaves these empty houses. And that's another challenge I'm looking at, saying, okay, what does that mean? Is that then literally my environment is mirroring to me now on this island that there are fewer people that will continue to exist because the colonial programs are done. I'm surrounded by humans that are not hybrids. And what does that mean for the society at large, the structure I'm part of, the little community I'm here? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? What are the challenges? Because I'm seeing it mirrored. The old is falling away and there's nothing new to step in. So that's my current environment that actually is mirroring to me some of the gaps and some of the needs that are there as the community, as we see in all of the rural communities in Denmark, are literally dying out. There's a reason for that. So with that insight, again, understanding the reality that's around us and what it mirrors to us so that we can get ready to the next step of our journey. And when we get onto the true human path, we are not choosing to go there. We are on it because we have a birthright. We are part of the genetic lineages that belongs there. The path itself will make it very clear if you're on or if you're not. You can't delude yourself to think you're on it. And the first step of that one is to recognize the new reality settings, the new reality responsibilities, because the true humans, they are notoriously known for wanting to help more than other groups. Hence the Regenesis programs, hence the Pillar Project, etc. So what does it mean to be a true human and help accurately? Not as a part of the base program where we are drawn into situations where we think we help, but on the contrary, we're actually being sucked dry because we're drawn into manipulation and distortion energies where we are not conducively and rightfully utilizing our original consciousness potentials in a manner that is conducive for us. And that generates distortion. Which also means that the human-humanoid projects were only possible because there was a group of true humans that got impacted by the timeline event. If there had not been a group of humans that had been impacted by the timeline event, we could not have participated in due to the extreme genetic dissimilarity between humanoids and true humans. We live in different universes. We are not joined. The Andromedan system is uniquely arranged in a manner, but that's because it's in the 9th dimension where that becomes possible. It is not possible in the other dimensions below it where human and humanoids coexist in the same reality field. We can visit each other temporarily, but we do not coexist. We have our own reality fields because our consciousness potentials works differently, and because of that, we are working with energies that are so dissimilar that we can have levels where we overlap and create zones where we can meet up, such as the councils. But in our everyday lives, we are segregated as a natural segregation dynamic. And if you do choose to go on the true human path, if it's your birthright, and you are living with a humanoid, well, then that will become very clear as you move further down the path. Perhaps not in the beginning, but eventually, as following that path of a true human, the ones that are close to you, and especially if you have a partner or significant other, then when you were in the human-humanoid or the Regenesis program, well, as long as the person was just doing the work there, then it was possible. But when you get on to the next level, that will demand something of your partner to some degree, whatever that means. I don't know to what extent that will impact Josh, for instance, or my child in these circumstances, but I will see, and perhaps I will discover that I can go so far on the path, and then there will be a stagnation for whatever reason, because I am still in situations and circumstances that prevents me from continuing, and then it will be so. The path itself will show me what to do. So I have trust in the path and the path potentials and what it will imbue in me, like the other paths I have walked through the artificial 4th and the artificial 5th, knowing and trusting that whatever comes my way will resolve itself in a manner that's conducive for my continued progression journey. So that's that step when I'm now here standing on the path. And it's interesting because I keep seeing as I'm in between two zones of energy. And I feel the new type of energy, and it stirs up a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared out. Some very, very old levels and fragments of the previous civilizations that still had the connection points to the original true human progression path. So that in itself is also interesting to observe. So with that, I will end this podcast 3 and we will continue in podcast 4. Thank you.